Here at the Moses Mabhida Stadium, Human Rights Day 2016. Currently in the background, if you can hear, we're hearing a song on Nelson Mandela, former President Nelson Mandela. Remember, we are celebrating and commemorating the 20th anniversary of the signing of the South African Constitution, signed by President Nelson Mandela back in 1996, December 10th. And it is indeed South Africa's highest law, and it's where our human rights are entrenched. And you know, today we are celebrating these human rights, although lots of work to be done, but many agree that there are achievements that needs to be celebrated today. Basic human rights, we talk about equality, human dignity, freedom of movement, freedom of residence. We're talking about language, culture, and life, as you mentioned, Ayanda. These are the basic rights that people are cherishing. And I guess the Constitution is a text in which embodies our nation's highest aspirations. That much more coming up during this broadcast, but let me throw it back to Vuyo.
Well, thanks very much, Blaine. Yes, indeed, we are coming to you live from the Moses Mabhida Stadium here in Durban, and that is where, from where President Zuma will deliver the keynote message to the nation on this day. What should be the nation's priorities when it comes to human rights? And 22 years into democracy, what in essence do we mean when we talk about human rights? Poverty has been mentioned by human rights activists throughout this week as the one big issue that remains a huge challenge, which means that a lot of South Africans are actually, their rights are being trampled on precisely because they cannot afford food to eat. They are poor, they cannot really do the sort of thing that each person should be able to do. Living is become, cost of living has become a huge challenge for many South Africans. They cannot afford food to eat. So we'll hear what President Zuma will have to say that what do we mean by human rights 22 years into democracy, given the challenges that we are facing as a nation. I'm going to hand back to Ayanda, who is standing by.
Vuyo, thank you once again. As you can just see and hear the excitement behind me here, people have come from all over the province of KwaZulu-Natal to be part of this day, to commemorate this very, very special day for the people of South Africa. Let me just bring in one of the ladies who was here. Sister Sobon.
Yeah, Moses.
Come
Ukamga ewat 6 Verelam.
Oh, kamga Verelam. Ngane zonijabule usuku olumnandi kakhulu lolu. Ukuba lakho kuwena kubaleka ngakanani?
Kubaleka kakhulu ngikhombisa ukuthi akufanele siqosane ngokobuhlanga ngoba namhlanje usuku lokuthi sikhululeke sonke sizive si right siphumelela la. Yebo, ngoba manje ukhombisa ukuthi abasendiya abelungu singabantu ababodwa xenophobia ayisekho.
Sisingiyabonga kakhulu athi ngibiza nomunye usisisi wena awujabule kakhulu nawe impela ngiyabona ngazi noma ujabulela umculo nawo bonke abantu babona
bonke abantu bakhona la stadium Moses Mabhida.
Usuku olubalekile sisi lolu ngiyazi ukuthi siyajabula yebo kodwa sikhuluma ngamalungelo abantu okuyinto ebaleka kakhulu le.
Yebo sizokhuluma ngamalungelo abantu namhlanje 21 Human Rights Day.
Kuwena iliphi ilungelo elinikezwa noma eligunyazwa abantu baseNingizimu Afrika elibaleka kakhulu kuwena?
Kuba kuhlonishwa abantu abangomama, sihlonishwa sisonke ilungelo eli-right ukuthina lelo. Yebo Nkosi.
Sesingiyabonga kakhulu. Let me just move a little bit here. There's some gentlemen here in the crowd. Or there's another young man. Let me see if he wants to come and chat with us. Puti, hi, how are you?
I'm alright.
Okay. I can see you're a bit shy. The ladies are taking over with the excitement, but it's a wonderful day. You being here, where do you come from? And just tell us about the importance of this day for you.
I'm originally from Windhoek, but I'm in the Bluff now. I just came with my friend Bison, and we came here to have a nice time and see what's it like around here.
It's an important day as a young person when we're speaking about human rights.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, as you can just see, great deal of excitement, but also some important things that the people were speaking about. We had one of the ladies speaking about the rights of women. She's saying that is very important. We also had also speaking about the topic today, South Africa united against racism. Another one of the ladies that we spoke to said for her the importance about today is South Africa coming together, regardless of race, regardless of sex, regardless of gender. It's a very important point. Today, the theme of the day is South Africa united against racism. People of South Africa, the people of KwaZulu-Natal out here enjoying themselves, commemorating this very, very important national holiday.
Oh yes, we are here with a smile. Wonderful day. It's a wonderful day. Oh yes, it's a wonderful day. Wonderful day. It's a wonderful day. Oh yes, it's a wonderful day. Wonderful day. It's a wonderful day. Oh yes, it's a wonderful day. Wonderful day. It's a wonderful day.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I must keep going. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is it better? Okay.
Live from the Moses Mabhida Stadium, we're celebrating and commemorating Human Rights Day 2016. Indeed, the crowds here are in full voice. They've really packed up this stadium here at the iconic Moses Mabhida Stadium. They're here to recognize their human rights, to recognize how they can use their human rights to actually protect themselves from any sort of violation. Let's speak to some of the people here. This gentleman joins us. What's your name, sir?
My name is Kulegani Mkhize from Itopo.
Mr. Mkhize, why are you here today?
I am here to celebrate Human Rights Day, just as President Zuma announced in his State of the Nation address. So we are here today to hear what he has to say.
What would you like him to say? I mean, the theme this year is united against racism. That's one of the strong themes that's going to cut across celebrations and commemorations around the country. What do you like to hear the president say today to you?
I want to hear our president insisting on us that we must unite as South Africans. We must learn to accept other brothers and sisters from our continent, because I think South Africa is one of the African countries. So when they come here, we must learn to accept them and learn a lot from them, because they have different skills.
Do you think there's reason to celebrate here today? Reason to celebrate a Human Rights Day?
Yeah. Yes, we are celebrating Human Rights Day. So I also think we need to stop criticizing each other and no racism against each other.
Mr. Mkhize, thank you very much indeed for your time. Indeed, people are in high spirits, in full voice. They're waiting the president, who is likely to speak in a few minutes. I understand he has arrived, so we're just waiting for him to take to the stage, and as soon as that happens, we'll cut live. But now I'll throw it over to Vuyo.
very much, Blaine. Yes, indeed, if you've just joined us, we are coming to you live from the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. We're waiting for President Jacob Zuma to arrive and to give that much-awaited keynote address on this day, Human Rights Day, celebrated this year under the theme of uniting against racism. We do have, of course, several dignitaries that are already here. The Minister of Education, N.G. Muteka, is here. So is the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. They're all here and waiting for that moment for the President to arrive and indeed give that keynote address. Right now, people are being entertained through music, gospel music to be specific, and they're dancing. Really, it has uplifted the spirits of everyone who's here. People have been dancing and singing along. The mood is really jovial at this point in time. We are waiting for that moment when President Jacob Zuma will arrive. We are told very, very shortly to come and deliver that keynote address. Speaking earlier to the Minister of Arts and Culture, Minister Nati Mtetwa, who was saying we need to have some serious conversations as South Africans around the issue of racism and say, as a nation, how do we go forward? We cannot sweep the issue under the carpet, as the most recent incidents have actually exposed us. They have actually told us that perhaps we haven't dealt with this issue in the 22 years that we've been a democracy, calling on all South Africans to have conversations from wherever you are, at work, at church, in societies where we live in. We need to come together as South Africans and start having these conversations, but perhaps more importantly, decide how we want to move forward as a nation in dealing with tackling this sketch. Let's go to the podium where the music continues to play.
Thank you very much once again, Vuyo. We're continuing to speak to the members of the public, people who have come from near and far to commemorate this day, most very eagerly awaiting to hear what President Jacob Zuma will be saying in his keynote address. Mama, angibonga nje isikhathi sakho mawami. Ngithola igama manje ukuthi uqhamuka kuphi nendawo.
Kala kwaNdengezi. Ngubongiwa kaMsimango.
Mama Simango, sibonga nje ma. Na uthe masuka kwaNdengezi wayeka izinto zenzayo ekhaya eholiday namhlanje ufuna ngabe uyihlalele wakhetha ukuthi uze la eMoses Mabhida.
Yebo, ngifuna uzobona umongameli uZuma. Yebo, nenkulumo azoyethula namhlanje silindele kakhulu ngoba siyokhethweni.
Yini oyilindeleke mhlambe ofisa wena ukuyizwa noma ufisa umongameli akhulume ngayo enkulumeni yakhe?
Kakhulukazi ngamathuba omsebenzi. Abantu base South Africa abaningi abasebenzi, abanye bahlala emjondolo abanazi izindlu. Sidinga izindlu, sidinga imisebenzi. Yebo.
Namhlanje olunye usuku njengoba mhlambe ubuka nje laphana kubhaliwe ukuthi namhlanje abantu baseNingizimu Afrika fanele babumbane silwisane nokucwasa kwabantu nokuyinto siyibona kunezigameko ezingezinhle ezithe zenzeka kulelizwe lakithi.
Ngithi abantu base South Africa ababuye babe munye ukuze sinqobe lento. Uma ngabe sihlangene siyuyela ukucwasana, thatha bonke abenhlanga sibahlanganise kuthina soyinqoba lento. Sicela ukuthi abantu base South Africa bebonke bahlangane.
Mangiyabonga kakhulu esikhathi sakhe. All right, that was just one of our. She's eagerly awaiting Umama Msimang. She comes from Gwandengezi and is eagerly awaiting to hear what the president will be saying. But as you see, the people are enjoying. There's music. Let's now go to the podium and to listen on. There's a gospel artist at the podium.
Follow
We are live from the Mozambique Stadium. It is Human Rights Day 2016. People are in high spirits, in full voice, celebrating this day, recognizing what human rights they have, and just basically looking at it and seeing how they can use it in order to protect themselves. We're talking about equality. We're talking about human dignity. We're talking about land. We're talking about freedom of movement, freedom of residence, health. It's all these human rights that these people here have gathered here to celebrate. Now, the other theme that we are celebrating, commemorating, is National Day Against Racism. Now, Mbuyamboko had a chance to speak to the Minister of Arts and Culture, Natim Tetua, earlier on. Take a look.
Well, we have to always keep the issue of racism and the endeavor to build a non-racial society always on the radar. In the recent past few weeks, months, we have seen the upsurge in racial tension in our country. And therefore, our project of nation building and social cohesion gets affected with such intolerances. We have a society always to take a stand against racism, but look beyond just taking a stand and showing our anger. But how do we then undermine those few amongst us in our society who yearn for the years gone by, that those will never come back? We are forging forward in building a nation, because you also understand, Vuyo, that 1994 we inherited a state without a nation. In that people were under one statehood, under one sovereign state, which was South Africa, but the conquerors ensured that communities are divided. There is no sense of unity, there is no sense of nation. So that process continues, and I can say that 22 years into our democracy, the culture of human rights is being entrenched in our society. Everybody knows about their rights, about their human rights. One thing we have to work tirelessly on is the responsibility which all of us have as citizens. But the culture of human rights is taking root, which is good. We need to continue on that path.
Looking at the events of the past couple of months, and given our history, with the benefit of hindsight, did we perhaps relax a bit and never really got to attend to the issue of racism and nation building, and the events of the past couple of months taking us by surprise?
Well, not really, Vuyo. This is one intolerance which is deeply entrenched in society. It's not just a prejudice. It's systemic. It's ideology. And therefore, comparing ourselves with even the developed nations of the world, you would see that yes, we have challenges, but they are not insurmountable. Last month, my counterpart, the Minister of Culture from Sweden, visited us here. And one of the things, Sweden being Sweden, and it's one of those, highly regarded democracies, she wanted us to share notes on how to attend to the issue of racism. You look at the United States of America today, what is happening in the UK, in Europe and so on. So when we look at this thing, we need to say that we would be moving away from it.
Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthethwa talking to Vuyo Mvuka. Now, the President has just arrived, so the formal proceedings have begun. We are about to go to the stage. Let me just throw to Vuyo Mvuka first before we go there. Vuyo?
Well, thanks very much, Blaine. Yes, indeed, the proceedings are getting underway. We're going to listen now to the AU anthem, which will be followed by the national anthem.
Thank you, Kabazela. Sesingahlala phansi. You may take your seats. We're now commencing with part 2 of our program, which is a formal program where we will be addressed by the leadership. Mongameli Ngamalala, Premier wa KwaZulu-Natal, ministers and deputy ministers, Minister Njimutsecha for basic education, and Minister Masuta, and all other ministers present here today. Members of Parliament, provincial legislatures, the Executive Council of the province, Chairperson Wamakosi, nendlu yobukhosi yonke ekhona la ngaphakathi kwethu namhlanje, Baba uMeya Mkhatshwa, and all the mayors present, councillors, religious leadership, business sector, media, bonke abezindaba bakhona ngaphakathi kwethu. Sesiyaqala nohlelo lwethu njengamanje. Ngizocela ukuthi ngaphambi kokuthi sidlulele phambili, sicele undunankulu wesifundazwe asondele ngaphambili azosamukela ngokusemthethweni ukwenzela ukuthi sizokwazi ukuqhubeka nohlelo lwethu.
Party wohlelo osilawulela lona namhlanje ngosuku olubaleke kangaka ezweni lakithi eNingizimu Afrika yonke. Umphathiswa uSibhidla Saphetha uNtombukayise, Mongameli wezwe lakithi eNingizimu Afrika, kanjalo umongameli futhi wenhlangano ephethe ilizwe lonke, ubaba uNxamalala, President Jacob Zuma, Your Excellency. Baba uNyambose, umphathiswa wamasiko, umnyango wamasiko kuzwe lonke, Nyambose. Umphathiswa wezemfundo, umama uEnji Motsekga, phethe umnyango wezemfundo kuzwelonke. Baba uMasuta, phethe umnyango wezobulungiswa kanye nokulungiswa kwezimilo, kuhlunyelelwa kwezimilo eNingizimu Afrika. Abaphathiswa bonke bakahulumeni omkhulu, all the ministers present, and all the diplomatic corps present, and all the members of parliament and members of the legislature, uMeya walapha eThekwini, Baba uJames Nxumalo, kanye na wonke amakhansela akhona omasipala abehlukehlukene. Amakhosi akhona, abaholi bakalizwi akade besihola kulenkundla, bonke ngokuhlukana kwabo kanjalo nokuhlangana kwabo ekudumiseni inkosi uNkulunkulu kanye nalabo ababalandelayo ngokwamahlelo abo. Wonke umphakathi wakwaZulu-Natal, masiqale ngokuzwakalisa ukubonga kwethu okukhulu kumongameli wezwe, the President of the Republic, His Excellency J.G. Zuma, kanjalo ne cabinet, ngokuqoka iKwaZulu-Natal ukuba ibe yona isingatha noma okuba kuyona lombuthano wanamhlanje wokuhlonipha amalungelo esintu. We say to Your Excellency, thank you very much for choosing this province to host this important national event. The day is indeed a big day for South Africa as a whole. Wonke amapondo, all sectors of society, in urban areas, in villages, in rural areas, emalokishini, kanjalo nakulezi indawo ezayihlala labo ababedla izambane likaMpondo noma abadla izambane likaMpondo namanje. Kanjalo usuku olubalekile to the young and old, black and white, rich and poor, all of us. The event today makes us in KwaZulu-Natal in particular feel closer to Sharpeville and all other historic events that have catapulted us to the Human Rights Day that we're celebrating today. Mongameli utata mongameli uqala weNingizimu Afrika ikhululekile utata uMadiba wasifundisa ukuthi iNingizimu Afrika entsha sonke kumele sishaye isifuba ngayo njengezwe okuwelethu futhi njengezwe esifanelwe yikho konke okukulo ngabanye sihambe ngokuyiqhenya kulona nangokungasabi nangokungabi namahloni. Kodwa ke siyabheka ukuthi inyangana nje ezedlule kuye kwaba lombhedukazwe emva kokuba omunye walabo abasasele ngemuva ngokwenzeka kwezinto uPenny Sparrow wakhipha amagama angamukeleki, racist remarks that were made by Penny Sparrow. These were the remarks and utterances that showed that there are those amongst us who still have the hangout of South Africa of old. Such utterances started a nationwide outrage and created an unnecessary racial tension. We condemn any form of racism which may be directed to any member of society. Indeed, we are saying to those who still have this hangout in our country, the color of today's South Africa is one. It is non-racialism. That is the color of South Africa today. If you look at your mirror and see something else, it is for your own private enjoyment. But the color of South Africa is non-racialism. We invite them, those who still have a hangout, to the new South Africa. If they resist, we will pull them, sizobadonsa. If they still resist, we will push them. Sobambisana, sibapushe ngemuva, bangene mawala eNingizimu Afrika entsha, engacwasi ngokwebala nanoma yiphi enye indlela. Today, we heartily remember that during the International Human Rights Day on the 10th of December 1996, Mongameli wokuqala eNingizimu Afrika ikhululekile, Tata Nelson Mandela signed the new constitution in Sharpeville effectively ushering this new South Africa. The preamble of our Constitution states, among other things, I quote, "We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity." The Constitution itself asserts the following: the Republic of South Africa is one sovereign democratic state founded on the following values: human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancement of human rights and freedoms. Clearly, kusifanele ukugubha lolu suku olubaleke kangaka sibumbene sihlangene siyabantu baseningizimu Afrika phansi ngokucwasa ngokwebala phansi yizwi elilodwa esikhuluma ngalo namhlanje njengoba samukela lapha KwaZulu-Natal lo mcimbi omkhulu kazwelonke sithike nonke namukelekile siyabonga kakhulu.
Siyabonga Macingwane. Njengoba sesamukeliwe ke sizwile sonke sizocela ukuthi siphakame sonke sikhombise ukukhulu ukuzithoba nokubonga nokukhumbula labo abalala endleleni belwela amalungelo wethu, ikakhulukazi njengoba silapha namhlanje ngalolu suku lomhla ka-21 March sikhunjuzwa izigameko ezenzeka ezweni lethu, uhulumeni wobandlululo ephikisana nokuthi iningi labantu balelizwe bakwazi ukuthi babe namalungelo aphelele. Siqhakambisa ke kakhulu labo abawa eSharpeville, kwaLanga eCape Town nakwezinye indawo esaziyo kuzo ukuthi abantu bakithi bashona bafa belwela lenkululeko esinayo namhlanje. Sizocela ke sonke ukuthi siphakame for a moment of silence. Sonke siphakame ngokukhulu ukuzithoba. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Siyabonga. Sizawuqhuba ke sikhwele uNocuphe. Igama lami ndinguNtomgayise Sibhidla Saphetha. Ngicela ukuthi ngizolekelela uMinister uNyambose uNathi Mthethwa ekuthini sigayide uhlelo lwethu lwanamhlanje. Siyaqhubeka ke ngoba sesamkeliwe nguNdunankulu wesifundazwe sethu. Namhlanje njengoba seshilo inhloso yalolu suku, uhulumeni kazwelonke uzodlulisa ilambu loxolo, a flame of peace that will be handed over to Minister Masuta by Minister uNG Mutshekga. Lilambu leli uhulumeni alikhanyisa kuzo zonke izifundazwe zethu ukukhuthaza ukubuyisana, ukukhuthaza uxolo, ukulwisana nocalucalulo kwimiphakathi esihlala kuyona. Minister NG, Please rise and do your task. You know it better. Advocate Masuta, you can come closer. You can use this one.
So, President, on this day, where we remember our fallen heroes on this day, as the Department of Education, we're handing over a torch of peace, a symbol of peace, to the human rights or the department with the responsibility for human rights. We had the torch on the 15th of January. We had used it in our sector to educate our children on non-racialism and sexism, but more important also on and the importance of peace in their life and institution. So we're handing over the torch piece to the Minister of Constitutional Development for him also to use it in his department to teach our people the values of peace and hope. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Isibane sokuthula siyakhanya KwaZulu-Natal. Siyabonga mphathiswa, siyasamkela isibane sokuthula, siyathembisa mongameli ukuthi uhlelo sizoliqhuba lufikelele kuzona zonke izifunda zalapha KwaZulu-Natal. At this point, I would like to call my co-program director, Minister Nyambose Natimtetwa, to come forward and lead the second session of our program.
Ziyasebenza. Alala South Africa, alala. Alala KwaZulu-Natal, alala. Phambili noxolo, phambili. Phambili nokuthula, phambili. Zakwethu mphathi ohlelo ngqongqoshe uSibhidla Saphetha, mongameli wezwe ohloniphekile Msholozi, ozakwethu kwiCabinet kazwelonke esinabo la ngaphambili, abanye bahleli lapha ya Ndunankulu wesifundazwe sakithi kwaMthaniya, Baba Meya weTheku, malungu ePhalamende namakhansela khona, kwabacosheli bezindaba nesizwe sonke. Namhlanje ke lo mcimbi wethu ukulesi sifundazwe saKwaZulu-Natal kodwa umcimbi kazwelonke. Abantu kwiningizimu Afrika yonke banathi, abanye basibhekile basemakhaya, nakubo siyabingelela. Inyanga ke kaNdasa kulelizwe lakithi ilapho siqhakambisa khona amalungelo abantu. Lokhu kungenxa yokuthi uhulumeni wentando yeningi waqoka lolu suku zinga-21 kuyo eKandasa ukuthi kube usuku lwamalungelo abantu. Isiqubulo ke salonyaka sithi iNingizimu mayibumbane ukuze iphikisane nokucwasana ngokwebala. Uhulumeni kazwelonke uqoke ukuthi nonyaka lolu suku lulethwe kuleli likaMthaniya. Sizoxuba ke ngoba sesishilo ukuthi eLimpopo basilalele, eWestern Cape basibhekile, eEastern Cape, eFree State, eNorth West, njalo njalo. Human rights are rights that are believed to be belonging to everyone. Human rights are based on the principle of respect for individual. Lokhu ke kusibeka ekutheni siqhakambise ukuthi sibabonge abantu base South Africa kulezi nyanga esiphuma kuzona lapho bayebama khona baphikisana nokucwasana ngokwebala. Lesi sihlava sisibonile ke siqala siveza ikhanda laso elibi elinencegela KwaZulu-Natal. Basukuma abantu bathi ngeke kwenzeke egameni lethu. Our national constitution, the supreme law of the land, contains the Bill of Rights in Chapter 2. The preamble states clearly that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. Our national symbols, such as the flag, become the brand image of a country. The flag, for example, becomes the face of a nation in world events. The national anthem is the very expressive of them all. It is an expression by people of love and loyalty to their country. Into esishoyo ke ukuthi masithande izwe lethu. Sizolithanda ngokuthi sitshengise sonke isikhathi lapho uma kukhona kuthina abawoskhwili phambana nobhoko abaphehla udlambedlu lobuhlanga sithi phansi nobuhlanga phansi phansi nokucwasana phansi phansi nobandlululo phansi. Lolu daba ke luzobekwa kahle umongameli wezwe lethu ubaba uNcamalala umsholozi esomcela ukuthi asondele azosethekela eshungwini lakhe ngokubaleka kwalolu suku. We now call upon the President of the Republic of South Africa to come and talk to the nation about this important day, Human Rights Day. Ncamalala.
Siyabonga, singahlala phansi. Sanibonani. Ninjani nisaphila? Awu siyabonga, siyaphila nathi. Baba Ndunankulu wesifundazwe saKwaZulu-Natal ubaba uSenzo Mchunu. Minister we Arts and Culture ubaba uNyambose. Ubaba umphathiswa wezokulungiswa, the Justice Babu Masuta, nomama we basic education umama uAngel Mutsecha, bonke minister bakhona namhlanje la abaqhamuka kuhulumeni kazwelonke, o deputy minister abaphuma kuzwelonke abakhona lapha namhlanje, ubaba uKhabazela owake waba undunankulu ngaphambili ezweni esifundazweni saKwaZulu-Natal, mama ophethe uhlelo umama uSabhidla Saphetha, kanye nabo bonke o-MEC abakhona lapha, amalungu ePhalamende kuzwelonke kanye namalungu ePhalamende namaphalamende esifundazwe, ubaba usobaba okuyena ophethe iTheku, imeya yaseThekwini, ubaba uZwide uJames Nxumalo, kanye nabo bonke abomkhandlu weTheku nabanye komeya bakhona namhlanje la. The leadership of the governing party and all other political parties present here today, religious leaders and traditional leaders, and business leaders present here, fellow South Africans, Sanbonan, good day, Dumelang, Thobela, Molweni. We extend warm greetings to all South Africans and all freedom-loving people in our country on this 2016 Human Rights Day. Siyanibingelela nonke ngalolu suku olubaluleke kakhulu ezweni lakithi lokukhumbula nokugcizelela amalungelo abantu. Usuku lolu esikhumbula ngalo indlela ayesicindezelwe ngayo lamalungelo ngeminyaka yobandlululo kwaze kwabalulwa abantu, abanye baboshwa kanti abanye bayohlala iminyaka eminingi ekudingisweni. Ngalolu suku sikhumbula indlela abantu abamnyama ababephethwe ngayo njengezinto nje, bengathathwa njengabantu abaphilayo nabanemizwa, abacabangayo, nabanelungelo lokuba ezweni labo. On this solemn occasion, we acknowledge all South Africans who suffered gross human rights violations during the period of apartheid colonialism, including murder, torture, or imprisonment. In particular, we remember the victims of the Sharpeville massacre, where 69 people were mercilessly killed and scores were injured when police opened fire on demonstrators who were protesting against the hated pass laws in Sharpeville. On the same day, police also shot and killed 3 protesters in Kwalanga in Cape Town and injured many others. We will never forget incidents such as Sharpeville, which demonstrated the heroism of our people who stood up for their rights. We thank the United Nations for declaring the 21st of March as International Human Rights Day. This was a powerful recognition of the correctness and just nature of our struggle for liberation. Compatriots, this year we have chosen the theme, South Africans Unite Against Racism for Human Rights Day. We have done so due to the need to continue working together to eliminate racism and its manifestations in our country. Our mission since 1994 is to create a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa. This is the task of every South African. Earlier this year, our country experienced explosions of anger due to the racist utterances and writings which reminded South Africans that the vestiges of white supremacy and racism still exist in some sections of society. It became clear that there are people who still yearn for the past, where black people were treated like second-class citizens because of their color of skin. We know that the majority of South Africans, that the minority of South Africans harbor racism and racial discrimination. That is why our theme correctly says that we are united against racism. The struggle against apartheid was in the main a struggle against racism, which is the notion that one group of people is better than others and is superior to others simply because of their color of their skin. Successive white governments entrenched racial oppression and segregation, which was enforced brutally by force. The apartheid regime systematically divided South Africans and caused untold damage to our country, which will take decades to reverse. Race determination, where people would live or work with bases and trains, in the buses and trains, they could board, with schools their children would attend, and even which pavements they could walk in some cities such as Pretoria. The best land was taken away while black people were shuffled into reserves and had to seek permission to live and work in urban areas. This gave rise to the pass laws and the Sharpeville massacre. Racist South Africa was described eloquently by former ANC President Chief Albert Luthuli in his December 1961 Nobel Peace Prize lecture entitled Africa and Freedom. He said, and I quote, "Here, the cult of race superiority and of white supremacy is worshipped like God. Few white people escape corruption, and many of their children learn to believe that white men are unequivocally superior, efficient, clever, industrious, and capable, that black men are equally, unequivocally inferior, slothful, stupid, evil, and clumsy," unquote. President Nelson Mandela also described how white supremacy manifested itself in apartheid South Africa. In his famous statement from the dock during the Rivonia trial, he said, and I quote, "The lack of human dignity experienced by Africans is the direct result of the policy of white supremacy. White supremacy implies black inferiority. Legislation designed to preserve white supremacy entrenches this notion. Manual tasks in South Africa are invariably performed by Africans. When anything has to be carried or cleaned, the white man will look around for an African to do it for him. Whether the African is employed by him or not, because of this sort of attitude, whites tend to regard Africans as separate breed. They do not look upon them as people with families of their own. They do not realize that they have emotions, that they fall in love like white people do, that they want to be with their wives and children like white people want to be with theirs. They want to earn enough money to support their families properly, to feed and clothe them and send them to school, unquote. This is the past we need to be aware of, a past that was terrible, which we cannot repeat. Because if we don't know it, we could unwittingly move towards it. It's a past that was defeated and put behind us. Madiba, Lutuli, Tambo, Helen Joseph, Ahmad Kathrada, and many others dedicated their lives to fighting racism and racial discrimination in order to end the type of society painted by our two illustrious leaders. They fought for the society described in the Constitution of the Republic. Madiba signed the Constitution into law in December 1996 in Sharpeville. And this year, we mark 20 years of this historic act. The preamble of the Constitution calls upon all of us to heal the divisions of the past and to establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. A lot has been done since 1994 to promote non-racialism, reconciliation, inclusion, and unity. In this regard, we would like to extend a special message to the black majority in our country. They were treated as lesser human beings. They were denied all the rights that human beings in modern civilized societies are entitled to, including equal citizenship in their own country and land. Despite all this, they extended a hand of friendship and agreed on the need to build a united, reconciled, and non-racial society. This was important for the transition to a new society and was an enormous contribution to building a new South Africa. Namhlanje sizwakalisa ukuyibonga indlu emnyama ngokuvuma kwayo ngo-1994 ukuthi ubuhlungu bengcindezelo nenhlupheko konke lokho ikubeka eceleni ivume ukuxolela abamhlophe ukuze sakhe iningizimu entsha nekhululekileyo. Siyazi ukuthi lokhu kwakungelula neze futhi namanje kusenzima ngoba abaningi bathi isandla esibuyayo esiza nokubuyisana. Abayingcosana abamhlophe asibonakali lesandla esibuyayo esibuyisanayo. Kuba sengathi umsebenzi wabamnyama kuphela ukusebenzela ukubuyisana. Kanti umsebenzi wethu sonke thina base South Africa balelizwe elifana nothingo lwenkosazana. Udaba okumele ludingidwe lolu sibhekane nalo ngqo njengesizwe ngoba ukwazi ukuthi kube uhlangothi olulodwa kuphela olunye lona lungabonakali lwenza nto. Today we also salute white compatriots who did not allow their position of having been born into privilege to make them close their eyes to violations of human rights and human dignity and crimes against humanity. There are many white freedom fighters who joined the struggle for liberation and contributed to the attainment of freedom and democracy in our country. We must work harder to eliminate the view that reconciliation is a one-way process where the black majority extends a hand of friendship but with little reciprocation from their white compatriots. Compatriots, indeed, we have done a lot to build a non-racial society. However, the apartheid damage was too deep to be the business of overnight. There is still a long way to go before we can say we have successfully reversed the impact of institutionalized racism in our country or to remove prejudice amongst those who subscribed to the notion of white supremacy. We urge all South Africans, black and white, to become part of this journey to a new society. Government has since 1994 worked systematically to reverse the legacy of apartheid and racial discrimination. We wish to emphasize and reiterate our determination as government to put an end to racial discrimination in all its forms and wherever it occurs. We must remove vestiges of racism in the workplace, in the education system, the health sector, in the administration of justice, and generally in access to government services and in the private sector. There is continuous provision of basic services such as water, housing and infrastructure, electricity, quality education and health care, and basically to ensure that black people live in dignity. The ending of economic marginalization is key to the reversal of racism and its manifestation in the economy. The economy is still primarily in the hands of the white minority in terms of control, ownership, and management. Transformative laws aimed at deracializing the economy or the workplace have been introduced by the democratic governments since 1994. These include employment equity laws and broad-based black economic empowerment. Examples of new transformation programs also include the targeted creation of black industrialists, which is aimed at opening up the manufacturing sector to the black community. The business community has responded warmly to this program. The land restitution and redistribution program is also one of the key programs aimed at reversing the legacy of the country's racist past. In memory of those who died in Sharpeville, Uitenhage, and Cape Town, and also in memory of millions who have suffered racial oppression and racism in our country, we say today that let us unite to build a South Africa that is free of racism and prejudice. To achieve this goal, we need to do a few things as South Africans. We must openly and conscientiously discuss and consciously discuss notions of white supremacy and how it manifests itself in society. When such views are held by people in positions of power, they undermine the nation's efforts to achieve an equal and non-racial society. People must be vigilant and point out instances of racial discrimination in the provision of services in both the private and public sectors, should this exist. Private companies, religious institutions, non-governmental organizations, and state institutions must run campaigns and awareness programs on the manifestations of racism so that we can eliminate denial and claims of ignorance about how this scourge manifests itself. It is of critical importance to end the denial and the tendency to downplay accusations of racism and undertake defensive stances. We should also be aware of the fact that some racists use art as a form of expression. We should thus be alert to subtle and disguised racism perpetuated through the stereotyping of individuals or groups of people in the media through cartoons and satire. The acceptance of the problem will lead to unity in finding solutions. And solutions must come from all sectors and individuals, and not government only. There is also a tendency to ridicule those who seek to expose racism or racial discrimination as a form of defense by those who refuse to acknowledge the existence of racialism or who are racist themselves and want the status quo to remain. Bakwethu sithi kuyacaca ukuthi ubandlululo lusekhona ezinhliziyweni zabathile. Lokhu kudinga ukubhekwa impela ngoba yikho okwenza ukuthi abantu banganikwa imisebenzi ephakeme ngoba kucatshangwa ukuthi abazi lutho ngoba nje bemnyama. Sithi ke kumele sibambisane sonke silwe nobandlululo nokucwasana ngebala emsebenzini, kwezemidlalo nezokungcebeleka, ezikoleni nakweziningi ezinye izindawo. There were calls earlier this year for government to introduce laws or institutionalize mechanisms to deal with hate speech and hate crimes. Government, through the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, has drafted a national action plan to combat racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerances. This plan emanates from the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, which was adopted at the Third World Conference Against Racism that was hosted by South Africa and was held here in Durban in 2001. The plan is designed to raise awareness of anti-racism, equality, and anti-discrimination issues among public officials, civil society, and the general public, mobilizing support from a wide range of people. This policy framework will encourage the collection of information regarding racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerances. It will help us ensure that the concerns of individuals and groups encountering racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerances are not brushed aside or underplayed, and that they are more effectively addressed by all of us. The Department of Justice, Constitutional Development is tasked with coordinating the development and finalization of this plan. A National Action Plan Steering Committee which comprises government departments, Chapter 9 institutions, international human rights agencies, faith-based organizations, as well as civil society organizations, has been established to enable wide consultations on the plan. Once final, the plan will be submitted to the UN Human Rights Commissioner for Human Rights. It will form the basis for the development of a comprehensive policy framework against the scourge of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerances. To complete the National Action Plan, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is finalizing the prevention and combating of hate crimes and hate speech bill, which is expected to be tabled in Parliament by September this year. The law is intended to make hate crimes and hate speech a statutory offense. We urge all to participate in the shaping of this important legislation. We are aware of the fact that government cannot legislate against racist beliefs and prejudices. Solutions will require the consciousness and willingness of those who harbor such harmful beliefs to educate themselves about human rights and equality. They need to assist themselves to understand that those who look different from them are not inferior. It also requires that we educate our school children and the youth about the non-racial society we are building. Government has begun programs of promoting patriotism and national identity already amongst our children. Symbols such as the national anthem, the national flag, and the preamble of the Constitution are being promoted in schools. Government, through the Department of Arts and Culture, is developing a non-racial heritage architecture in the country. A major new project, the Liberation Heritage Route, is also to be implemented and will feature sites of significance in all 9 provinces. Statues of our liberation heroes are being erected, while their graves and other important sites are being declared national heritage sites. We are pleased to announce here that government will build a statue of the late co-president of the United Democratic Front and one of the leading stalwarts of our liberation movement, Mr. Archie Gumede, in Durban. This will be a fitting tribute to a patriot who dedicated his life to the attainment of liberation in his country. Compatriot, the country experienced horrific attacks on foreign nationals in April last year in parts of Durban. and parts of Johannesburg. The majority of South Africans spoke out strongly against the attacks. They reaffirmed our country's support of human rights and dignity for all. We hosted the inaugural Africa Month program in May last year and are planning for the second African Month celebration this year to promote peace and friendship amongst South Africans and fellow Africans. Xenophobia has no place in South Africa and will not be tolerated. Compatriots, when we speak of human rights, we include the rights of all, including compatriots with disabilities. The United Nations in 2011 declared 21st of March as the World Down Syndrome Day. We call on all South Africans to pledge solidarity with South Africans with Down syndrome and their families and accord them the respect and understanding they deserve. We wish all South Africans with Down syndrome well on this special day. Compatriots, we have set ourselves on a mission to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa. We are building a South Africa in which nobody will be discriminated against because of the color of their skin. In the provision of services and opportunities by both the public and the private sector. As we proceed with this mission, we are guided by the words of our beloved former President Nelson Mandela, who said, and I quote, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart that its opposite than its opposite." Unquote. As South Africans, we say no to racism and racial discrimination. We say no to xenophobia. We say no to prejudice and intolerances. Compatriots, let us remember one thing. We are celebrating the human rights. We all want our rights to be respected. And it is important that for we as South Africans, we should respect the rights of others. Whatever we do, let us remember that the human rights belongs to all of us and they need to be respected. If we exercise our rights, let us not interfere with the rights of others, so that our struggle, our actions as we fight for our rights must be respected and means must be made to meet the rights we are fighting for. It does not make a good sense to fight for a right by undermining the right of others. This is what we should keep in mind at all the times as we perfect our struggle for our rights. Compatriots, this is a day we should always keep in mind in our calendar. For the rights is an important thing we all possess, and they need to be allowed to flourish, to be practiced, to be respected. Of course, rights go together with the responsibility. To respect the right of others is to exercise the responsibility as well. Let us build this important rainbow nation, a nation that has emerged from a history that we all don't like, that has come into a celebrated era as South Africa. Compatriots, I wish you all a meaningful human rights and a happy one. Enjoy the day. I thank you.
Siyabonga, siyabonga Nxamalala. Siyabonga Msholozi. Alala Msholozi, alala. Alala Nxamalala, alala. Phambili namalungelo abantu, phambili. Phansi no bandlululo, phansi. Phansi nababandlululi, phansi. Phansi nontamolukhuni, phansi. Siyabonga Mongameli, thank you very much, Your Excellency the President, for your message. South Africa is asked to unite against racism. Siyabonga umuntu ozosibongela kahle umeya wethu Sokhaya lapha eThekwini, kodwa ngingakambizi angisho ukuthi we have two ladies here, the sign language interpreters, uNokuthula Khumalo noLondeka Ntshangase, abangempela ke laba batolika impela. These are real McCoy. Our mayor, Councillor James Ngumalo Sothondose uzozazo sibongela to give us a vote of thanks.
Bonke kakhulu umphathi wohlelo, Minister ubaba unathi Mthethwa Nyambose no MEC uSibhidla Saphetha, bakwethu angisukume ngenkulu inhlonipho ngokuba sibonge kakhulu umongameli wethu waseNingizimu Afrika nomongameli wethu we-African National Congress, ubaba uJacob Gedlehlekisa Zuma, ngokuba asinikeze inkulumo enohlonze namhlanje ngalolu suku lwamalungelo abantu. Bengizocela nje simbonge ngelikhulu ihlombe. Siyabonga Ncamalala. Mongameli. Sibonge kakhulu undunankulu wesifundazwe saKwaZulu-Natal ubaba Senzo Mchunu Macingwane. Sibonge kakhulu uMinister we-Arts and Culture uzwelonke ubaba uNathi Mthethwa Nyambose. Sibonge uMinister wezemfundo umama Enji Mtshekga noMinister waka-Justice ubaba uMasutha. Sibonga ongqongqoshe abakhona, o-Deputy Minister bonke abakhona, o-MECs, malungu eParliamente namalungu esishayamathetho, omeya bakhona, amakhansela, bakhosi asendlunkulu. Sibonge kakhulu kubefundisi bonke amahlelo ahlukene abasivulele ngumthandazo. Sibonga osomabhizinisi abakhona nabaholi bonke abakhona bakahulumeni nombimbi olholwa ukhongolose nabo bonke abantu bakwaZulu-Natal nonke bakwethu. Siyabonga kakhulu ngoba ngaphandle kwenu lo mcimbi ubungeke ube impumelelo. Siyabonga kakhulu kunina nonke. Siyabonga kakhulu. Sibonge kwabezindaba angathi noma senihamba nihambe kahle, finyelele kahle nonke emakhaya, nidle kahle nephasika, niphephe nasengozini, siphinde sibonane futhi. Siyabonga kakhulu, nibe nimpalasonto emnandi. Siyabonga.
Our formal program comes to an end. We are now going to give to DJ Sianda ne Shoba Lembuzi. Shoba Lembuzi. Lipi Shoba Lembuzi? Oh, Shoba Lembuzi. Waza ke Shoba Lembuzi. Sesinika wena ba. Siyabonga. Siyabonga.
Engizokala ngithi shine Africa shine. Shine Africa shine. Phambili ngeNew South Africa phambili. Phansi ngomona umona phansi. Mina ngiyajabula nani jabulani. Mina ngiyajabula mangibona umsholozi. Mina ngiyathokoza nani thokozani. Mina ngiyathokoza mangibona uNcamalala. Bazalwane phambili ngeNew South Africa phambili. Phansi ngomona umona phansi.
We've come to the end of that's how we come to the end of this broadcast. President Jacob Zuma urging South Africans to unite and take a stand against racism.
For me, what was very important is being able to get into the crowd, to speak to the thousands and thousands of people that are here today, to hear them saying that they know their rights, they understand their rights, and therefore they're going to be able to enjoy their rights. And for me, that is what stood out, the messages that came from the people.
Yeah, indeed, it's a very important theme, isn't it, in terms of racism and what needs to be done in order to stamp out the vestiges of racism. And I guess it's all about building a future based on equality and social justice. And it's days like this, I guess, that affords us an opportunity in order to recognize the sacrifices that accompanied the struggle for freedom and democracy that we now enjoy.
But our democracy was indeed not free. Well, that's where we're going to end it. From me, William Hoko.
Myself, I am Mshongo.
And Blaine Herman. Have yourself a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.